My name is Sombet. I'm 80 years old, and I want to begin by telling you something that I suspect part of you already knows, but that the part looking for the salt ritual does not want to hear yet. There is no salt ritual that blocks or attracts money, not in the way the title suggests, not as a mechanism that operates independently of everything else in your life. The salt is not doing anything. The ritual is not doing anything. And if you are honest with yourself about every ritual, every charm, every special arrangement you have tried in hopes that it would change your financial reality, you will probably recognize that the mechanism has never quite worked the way it promised to work. Not because you were doing it wrong, but because the thing you were actually trying to change was never something that salt could reach. But stay with me, because what I want to share today is genuinely about money, and about the real things that block it, and the real things that attract it, not because I have a system or a secret, but because 80 years of honest living have shown me with considerable clarity what actually determines the financial quality of a life. And what I have seen is both more demanding and more accessible than any ritual. I was born in northern Thailand into circumstances that were genuinely materially difficult, not in an abstract way, in the way where certain things were simply absent and where the absence was felt. I understand what it means to want your financial reality to be different. I understand the particular quality of hope that reaches for something that might change the equation without requiring everything that changing the equation usually requires. I understand why a salt ritual is appealing. It is immediate. It is concrete. It requires very little from you in terms of the uncomfortable inner work that real change almost always demands. And here is what I learned, slowly and through many years of both struggle and eventual sufficiency. The things that genuinely block money from flowing into a life are real, and the things that genuinely attract it are real. They are just not the things that salt and ritual can address. The first thing that blocks money more consistently than almost anything else I have observed is the belief that you do not deserve it. This belief rarely announces itself directly. It disguises itself as practicality, as humility, as spiritual non-attachment. But underneath those disguises, for many people, lives a quiet and very old conviction that abundance is for other people, that something about you, your background, your family, your education, your personality, your past mistakes, makes you someone for whom genuine financial ease is simply not the expected outcome. And that belief, operating below the level of conscious awareness, shapes decisions in ways that confirm itself again and again. Opportunities that do not feel meant for you are not pursued. Amounts that feel larger than you deserve are not asked for. Work that would be genuinely compensated is offered at prices that reflect internal inadequacy rather than actual value. No salt can reach that belief, but honest examination can begin to. The question that does the work that the ritual cannot is this: what do I actually believe, in the quietest and most honest part of myself, about whether I deserve financial ease? Not what do I think I should believe. What do I actually believe? and then, with whatever patience and honesty the answer requires, beginning to examine where that belief came from and whether it is actually true. The second thing that blocks money is the relationship with the money that is already present. This is something I observed very clearly in my own life and in the lives of many people I have watched across the decades. People who are genuinely surprised by abundance when it arrives often have an unconscious habit of treating the money that is currently present with a kind of anxious inattention. They do not know clearly what comes in. They do not know clearly what goes out. They have complicated feelings about looking at the numbers directly. They manage their financial life with a peripheral attention that is the financial equivalent of trying to navigate by looking slightly away from where you need to go. The ritual that actually works here is not salt. It is the practice of looking directly, clearly, without drama and without judgment, at what you have, what you spend, what you earn, what you owe, what you save, and what patterns emerge when you look at all of that honestly over time. That clarity, as uncomfortable as it can be to develop, is one of the most genuinely transformative practices available for someone whose relationship with money has not been producing what they want. And here's what I didn't understand then. The discomfort of looking clearly is almost always much smaller than the discomfort of not looking. The anxiety that comes from financial vagueness, from the sense that there are numbers you are not quite facing, is often larger and more draining than the actual numbers themselves. Looking clears something. It removes the particular quality of dread that lives in the avoidance. And from clarity, choices become possible that were not possible from the fog. The third thing that blocks money is the confusion between what you need and what you genuinely want versus what you believe you should want. This is subtle but very real. Many people are working very hard toward financial goals that are not actually theirs. Goals inherited from family expectations, from cultural pressures, from the comparison to what others around them seem to be pursuing. And working hard toward a goal that is not genuinely yours produces a particular kind of exhaustion and a particular kind of resistance that is very difficult to push through. Because some part of you knows that what you are working toward is not what you actually want. And that part will find ways to slow the progress. The question that opens this is, if I did not need to explain my financial goals to anyone, if I did not need them to make sense to my family or my community, or anyone whose opinion I care about, what would I actually want my financial life to look like? Not the most impressive version, the most genuine version, the one that would actually produce a feeling of rightness and sufficiency when you lived inside it. That question, answered honestly, often reveals that the goal was never quite yours, and that revelation, though it can be disorienting at first, is the beginning of the kind of clarity that actually produces traction. You know what surprised me most when I began to work with these questions honestly? How much energy had been going into directions that I had never genuinely chosen. how much of what I thought I was working toward was actually the accumulated weight of other people's expectations that I had absorbed so completely I could no longer feel the edges of them. When that began to clear, something in the financial dimension of my life began to clear with it. Not magically, not immediately, but genuinely, because I was finally moving in directions that were actually mine. The fourth thing that blocks money is the relationship with what money represents. For many people, money is entangled with very deep things, with safety, with love, with worth, with power, with freedom, with the ability to finally be the person you want to be. When money is carrying all of that weight, the relationship with it becomes distorted in ways that are very hard to see from the inside. People who unconsciously believe that having more money would make them safe often develop a paradoxical pattern of sabotage that keeps them just short of the level where safety would supposedly begin. People who equate money with love often have complicated patterns around giving and receiving it that have more to do with love than with money. The ritual that helps here is not salt, it is honest inquiry. What does money mean to me really? What do I believe having more of it would make possible that is not currently possible? And then, with genuine curiosity, examining whether those things actually require the money to become available, because very often they do not. The freedom, the safety, the sense of worth, the permission to finally live as who you actually are, those things are often available through a completely different path than the financial one. And recognizing that sometimes removes a burden from the financial pursuit that allows it to actually work more effectively. The fifth thing, and perhaps the most practically important, is what I would call the gap between value created and value claimed. Many people produce genuine value in the world and then consistently claim significantly less than what that value merits. They undercharge, they undersell, they accept less than what is offered. They do not negotiate when negotiation is appropriate. They apologize for taking up space that they have every right to occupy. And the financial consequences of this pattern, compounded over years and decades, are enormous. The work here is not magical. It is the slow, sometimes uncomfortable practice of claiming more completely what you have actually earned, asking for the raise, raising the price to what the work is actually worth, accepting the compliment without immediately diminishing it, occupying the space that your contribution genuinely merits without the reflexive shrinking that so many people perform habitually. What most people don't realize is that the most powerful thing you can do for your financial life is not a ritual. It is the practice of becoming someone who genuinely expects to be compensated fairly for genuine value. Not entitled, not aggressive, but genuinely expecting that what you offer has real worth, and that being paid accordingly is right and appropriate. That expectation, embodied and lived, changes the quality of every financial interaction you have. Let me tell you what actually attracts money, because I want to give you the other side of this with equal clarity. What attracts money is not mystical. It is the combination of genuine value creation, clear and honest communication about that value, a willingness to do the work even before the reward is visible, and a relationship with your own financial life that is clear, honest, and unmystified. It is the practice of knowing what you have, knowing what you spend, knowing what you earn, and making conscious choices about all three. It is the discipline of building slowly, of not spending what you do not yet have, of living within a genuine understanding of your actual situation rather than the hoped-for situation. And it is the inner work of addressing the beliefs, the fears, and the inherited stories about money that are quietly shaping the financial dimension of your life in ways you may not yet be fully seeing. None of that requires salt. All of it requires honesty. And honesty, unlike ritual, actually works. At 80 years old, I have known periods of genuine material scarcity and periods of genuine sufficiency. The difference between them was never a ritual. It was always a combination of inner work and outer action. It was always the practice of seeing clearly, both inward and outward. It was always the slow accumulation of small, honest choices that eventually produced a different reality than the one the old patterns were producing. If these words are landing somewhere real in you today, I want to invite you to do one thing, not a ritual, one honest act. Write down, without filtering or editing, everything you actually believe about money, about what it means, about whether you deserve it, about what having more of it would really change. Let it be completely honest. Let it be messy. And then read it with genuine curiosity, the way you would read something a friend had written about their deepest beliefs. What do you see in there that is actually true? What do you see that is a story inherited from somewhere else? That one honest act will do more for your financial life than any salt in any arrangement has ever done for anyone. Tell me in the comments what you discovered when you honestly asked yourself what you actually believe about money. And if this message gave you something real to work with, stay close to this space, because the practice of honest examination is one that deepens the more you return to it, and every honest return brings something into clearer view that was always more available than the ritual suggested.